I just spent the last 6 months learning every single thing about neuroscience by reading books, watching videos, using ChatGPT to really understand why people stay stuck in their life and what causes real change to happen. Because one of the most important things I learned is your brain is not designed to make you happy. It's actually designed to keep you safe. And even though I have accomplished so much in my life up to date by changing my mindset and my identity, I still notice repeating patterns that I was doing over and over again that was actually stopping my growth. So in this notebook, I literally have pages and pages of notes that I've been taking over the course of the last few months. And in today's video, I want to pull the most important topics and things that you need to know from my research, and I simplified them so that way you can actually use it to change your life and feel like you're actually in control of the choices that you're making. And I always love to add in a disclaimer, I am not a neuroscientist. This is just basically every single thing that I have learned. And the way that I'm going to be structuring this is basically just listing off certain things that you need to understand and know so that way you can make these changes in your life. Number one, your brain is always predicting and creating the future based on prior experiences. Now, there's something in your brain called predictive processing. And what this basically means is your brain's version of interpreting what could potentially happen in the present moment or the future based on past experiences. So this is why we actually end up like dating the same type of person. We always experience the same type of events that happen in our life. We're always capped at the same income because we know what's already familiar to us based on, once again, prior, people, experiences, things that we've gone through. Therefore, our brain is designed to actually recreate that in the present or in the future. And I know this happened to me because before I met Andy, my husband, I used to date the same type of person. The guy who was unavailable, the guy I could not trust, the guy that always wanted to be with me, but he couldn't give me what I actually wanted. And it wasn't because I wasn't worthy of love. It was simply because my brain was familiar to that. Therefore, I was always attracting that same type of person to me and recreating that experience. So if we want to create a new experience, we actually have to be consciously aware of what we're assuming that could happen in the present or in the future. Number two, your brain is not designed for risk. It's designed to keep you safe. So that is why consciously, every single time you want to make a change in your life, you want to reach a new goal, you want to make more money, you want to switch careers, you want to get married to the love of your life, your body and your brain goes into panic mode. You start to feel that heaviness in your chest. You start to ruminate all the potential possibilities that could go wrong. And it's not because you cannot do those things. It is just because, once again, your brain is designed to keep you in the familiar and in the known state. Because anytime you want to make a change, you're going into unknown territory. So for an example, a lot of times people come to me and say like, hey, I want to switch careers. I don't want to work a 9-to-5 job anymore. I want to build my own business, but I'm really terrified and I'm afraid. And thus they just stay in their current job. But this is where you actually want to become consciously aware that your body is going into panic mode and you want to start regulating your nervous system. So that's why I always say, do breath work, do humming, meditate, so you can actually catch your body up to the new changes and actually make those changes. I love this one. Number three, your brain is always reinforcing the same behaviors, habits, and actions to stay consistent with your current identity. Now, there's a part of your brain called the default mode network, and this is basically where you store your entire identity, like your I am statements, the stories that you tell yourself, your beliefs, your thoughts that basically are on repetition every single day that create your personality. So if you tell yourself like, oh, like, I'm a little shy, or maybe you are very extroverted, or maybe you always tell yourself, I can't do it, I'm lazy, I never really finish what I start, that is stored in your default mode network. So in the beginning of my career, when I wanted to build a brand on social media, I had this story that I would always tell myself of, I am too shy. I can't get in front of the camera. What if people judge me? And in the really beginning, that stopped me from actually showing up on social media, because once again, every single time I tried to like post on social media, my mind and my body would tell me like, oh, like, don't do it because that's not really who you are, even though I wanted to create that new version of myself. So your brain is always protecting the version that it's familiar with. So once again, this is why every time you want to do something, you tell yourself, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it later, go treat yourself instead. It's not because you can't do it. It is just because your brain wants to keep you in that familiar state. Number 4, your brain cannot tell the difference between a real experience happening in your life and a vividly imagined one. And this is why I always preach and tell people, meditate and visualize. When you can quiet your mind and your body goes to sleep, your subconscious brain is awake. And that is where a lot of your memories, your beliefs, your thoughts are stored, right? So if you can tap into your subconscious mind and vividly paint the picture of what you want, when you quote unquote wake up from your meditation, you won't feel that resistance of not wanting to show up on social media or not putting yourself out there on dates, because it's just as if you already have done it before. Because over time, when you consistently meditate and visualize, you create a memory in your brain, right? So once again, your brain and body are kind of like black and white. If you tell it something specific, it will follow. So I know for me, one of my biggest goals to date was speaking on TEDx stages. And when I landed my first TEDx talk, I had never spoken on stage once, but the reason I was able to actually attract that into my life was because I visualized it over and over again. I trained my body and my brain to believe that I actually was supposed to be on stage because I had a really good story to tell. So that is why I always tell people, like, incorporate daily meditation, visualization every single morning, at least for 10 minutes, because you can genuinely see so many changes in your life. Number 5, you create your life based on beliefs, not what you physically see in the 3D world. So if you see $0 in your bank account, you're noticing that gas prices are going up, maybe your ex got with somebody else, and you are using that as proof to why you're unable to get your goal or desire, that is why you're still stuck in the same place in your life. Your brain will always show you more of what you focus on. So if your mindset is in a state of lack and scarcity, you're not actually creating out of abundance. And one of the biggest things that I really had to overcome was when I was in college, I struggled with a lot of anxiety and health issues. And I remember I would always place my focus and attention on that. The news from, what I get from my doctor, my test results, how I would feel every single morning when I would wake up. And of course, since I was focused on all of the external things in my environment, I started to actually attract that into my life, because most people, they create life based on what they see in their environment, not what they actually believe could be true for them. So if you want to change anything in your environment, stop associating with what you see and using that as proof to why you can't get something. Create a belief that is so much stronger, and by repetition, your brain will actually start to show you different ways that you can actually, get the goal, make that change, and shift your life. Your subconscious mind is actually what creates your identity and your personality, not your conscious mind. So this is why people can want so many things in their life. They can want to buy, their dream car, get a mansion, become a lawyer. They can want to make so much money. They can want to get six-pack abs consciously. And they might start taking action to get those things, but over time they fall off and they revert back to their old self. And once again, it's not because they're not capable of doing it. It is just because the thoughts and the beliefs that are deeply rooted in their brain, it's not stored in your conscious brain when you're awake and you're, taking action throughout the day. It's stored in your subconscious mind. So even when you take the action of posting on social media, even when you take the action of going on dates, even when you take the action of working out at the gym, if your brain is telling you later on, like, oh, you're actually unlovable, it's probably not going to work. You posted, but only 10 people liked it. You worked out, but you still look fat in front of the mirror. That is what you will always believe about yourself, because your subconscious will always override your conscious brain of what you want because it's always the most dominant. So if you actually want to adjust and change that, you need to reprogram the subconscious mind. And I actually did a full deep dive video of how to do that. So if you're curious about what to do to actually reprogram it, make sure to watch this video after you finish this one. Number 7, entertaining negative thoughts on repeat will cause you to attract them and experience them in your life. Your brain is always listening to what you tell it. So if you're constantly telling yourself, I'm lost, I'm broke, I can't do it, I'm fat, I'm ugly, that is what you will end up experiencing. Your brain is kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So over time, when you continually believe something about yourself and that actually becomes your identity, it's kind of like when people get stuck in victim mode, they always start to attract bad things in their life. It's not because they are just born unlucky, it is because that's the only thing that they're focused on. And that leads me to my next thing, which is what you consciously observe the majority of the time is what you actually end up experiencing. Now, there's another part of your brain called the reticular activating system. Now, we get hit by like 11 million stimuli per second, but we only filter in and process 40 to 50 bits per second. Meaning your brain will only take in and show you what's actually important to you. So for an example, if what's important to you is saving money, making sure you always have enough, not spending your money, guess what will happen? When you go fill up your gas at the gas station, you're going to notice the extra dollar that you have to spend per gallon when you fill up your tank. You're going to notice the economy crashing. You're going to notice people aren't spending money because there just isn't enough to go around. And once again, it's not because you don't want to be wealthy. It's not because you don't want to be making more money. It is just because what you are focused on in your brain is what you're filtering in. So this is also another great example. This is why two people can walk into a room. There can be an amazing opportunity for them to start a business. One will look at that and be like, oh my gosh, abundance, wealth, I can make an additional $10,000. I can leave my job. Let's go do it. While the other one will look at that exact same opportunity and be like, oh, I'm afraid. What if I lose my money? What if this person I cannot trust? Therefore, they don't actually take on that opportunity because they're afraid of what could potentially happen. Therefore, they're using their predictive processor to assume what could happen based on prior experiences. But on the flip side, when you start to observe what you actually want, that is when your brain will actually start to see opportunity that will directly lead you to your pathway. And this is where like you might have experienced, synchronicities. People will randomly come into your life that will directly lead you to your dream job. Maybe you're at the coffee shop and all of a sudden you meet someone that you really connect with. This is not because it's out of luck. It is because you're actually in alignment and now you can actually see those opportunities, those people, and those pathways that will lead you to the goal and the desire that you actually want. This is one of my favorites. True happiness is caused by your perspective on things, not the things itself. So the meaning that you're placing on certain people, situations, events, that is what is going to make or break the way that you build your life and the way that you live your life. So for an example, if you lost your job or your boyfriend cheated on you, or maybe you gained an additional 10 pounds over the course of 1 month, what are you going to make that mean about yourself? Are you going to use that once again as proof to why you can't change? Are you going to use that as the reason why you can't feel fulfilled and happy and joyful and grateful every single day? Or are you going to choose to place a positive meaning on that solely for the purpose of making yourself feel good? And I want to say, studying this over the course of the last 6 months, this has been one of the biggest eye-opening things for me, because every time something didn't even necessarily go wrong in my life, but didn't go the way that I wanted to, if I placed a negative meaning about it, and not just about it, but a negative meaning about myself about that situation, I would always feel poorly about myself. But if I looked at it as is without putting any meaning on it about me, I would be okay, right? So for an example, One thing, of course, that I'm doing right now is I'm recording this YouTube video. In the past, I would look at my YouTube videos, and if it didn't perform as well as I wanted to, I would make it mean something bad about myself of like, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about. People don't like me. But now I just look at it as like, oh, maybe people just haven't seen it yet. Or maybe they saved it and haven't watched it. Or maybe it's a topic that's much more specific, but 5,000 people still watched it, right? So it's like your perspective on what you're putting on these certain things that you're doing throughout the day, events that might be happening, certain outcomes is going to dictate not just how you feel, the confidence that you build for yourself, but also how you just live life in general. So honestly, if there's one of the biggest things that you take away from everything that I listed today, let it be that one. Because after learning all of this and consciously taking the action to make the changes in my brain and my body, genuinely, I saw the shift almost immediately. So comment below if you want me to do another in-depth video of the changes that I'm making to see the shift in my life, because I definitely will make that video. Because once again, this video, it didn't even like make a dent in my notebook because there's so much that I have learned. So if you want me to do another video, comment below and let me know. But that's all I have for today. Make sure to watch this video if you haven't watched it already. I love you so much, and until next time, make sure that you stay unforgettable.